call to order the meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen for Tuesday, September the 6th. I have a few changes to the agenda. I'm going to ask you to add at 7A to consider the appointment of the Director of Emergency Management. I'm going to ask you to add at 31A, consider acceptance of infrastructure for the Lamar Phase 4B in the Lamar development. Those are the only two additions that I have. Does anybody else have an addition? Ashley, do you have anything?
No, ma'am.
All right, then I would ask you to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? A quick mayor's report. We made it through our first home football game weekend unscathed, so that's a huge success. We had happy crowds and packed restaurants and a win, so I think that we came out ahead. A few quick tidbits for you from the Oxford Park Commission. We have 331 kids registered for flag football and a waiting list already. In our second year offering fall volleyball, we have 83 signed up to play, and we're setting records in fall baseball and softball numbers as well. We're really happy to have partnered with a group called Random Acts of Kindness to celebrate National Good Neighbor Day on September the 28th in front of City Hall. You will hear us approve a parade permit for that in just a bit, but Random Acts of Kindness will be handing out breakfast, lunch, and an afternoon sweet treat that day. So be watching our social media to learn more about that. And I say often that we have the best employees, and Rob Neely's not here again when I'm trying to brag on him. I always pick a time when he's not on the agenda. So I'm kicking this can down the road again. So y'all tell Rob Neely when you say him that I've tried to brag on him twice. All right, so that is it for our mayor's report. And so I'll ask you to authorize the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on August 16th, 2022, the recess meeting on August 23rd, 2022, and the special meeting on September 2nd, 2022.
Move we approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ask you to authorize the approval of accounts for all city departments.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ask you to consider a very lengthy consent agenda.
Motion made to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we'll have the presentation of and request permission to accept the audit for fiscal year ended September 30th, 2021. Brian, if you want to come up.
Yes, I was going to say, yes, we have it finished, and Brian is here to present.
Okay, I'll be very brief. I do have, it's about 100 pages in that book. I'm certainly not going to go through all that.
Well, thank you.
There's a one-page summary in the front of that sort of highlights my talking points for today. And
Thank
again,
you for taking the time to do that for us.
Yes. We have completed the audit again this is for your September 30th, 2021 year. A lot of positives to talk about as normal. A few more positives even than I brought before you last year at this time. But my name is Brian Wildman. On page 1 is our independent auditor's report. That's the letterhead for our firm with our contact information. And if you ever need us, please feel free to reach out to us. Our information is there. Ashley also can provide that to you. If you look at the one-page summary of notes, on page 1 and 2, page 2 expresses our opinion. And if you'll remember, each year that we have brought this report before you, you have had what's called a qualified opinion. This year, this is the first time we've been able to present a report that is an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurances we can give as auditors. So the issue that had caused the qualification, you can see a summary of those. We started out with 5 qualifications the first year we performed your audit back in 2013. We've slowly chipped those away due to the hard work of Ashley and Jesse, and now all those exceptions or qualifications have been removed. You do have an unmodified opinion, so that is very commendable and something that Ashley and her staff should be recognized for. Beginning on page 4 is the management's discussion and analysis. I'm not going to read through that, but it goes from page 4 to page 12. I did highlight there some of the information on debt. This year you did issue $10,439,000 worth of new debt, but you did repay $16,479,000 worth of debt. And also on page 10, comments on some of your funding sources and uses of funds. The majority of your revenue comes from sales tax money and property taxes. Where you spend most of your money is in the public safety function of government. And again, that's on page 10 with those percentages. Page 13 is the first of the financial statements I sort of wanted to comment on real briefly. Page 13, statement of net position, is very similar to a balance sheet. This presents all the assets owned by the city of Oxford. The first column, governmental activities, that's all funds of the city other than your utility systems. They are presented in the middle column as business type activities. If you come down 3 lines from the bottom, you'll see your total assets this year is $306,376,165. That's up about $13 million from the previous year. So our assets increased. A lot of that increase is in our fixed assets and our infrastructure, but also at the very top, you'll see your cash and cash equivalents, your certificates of deposits, and your investments. Those items are up about $13 million this year. So your liquid assets, your cash reserves, did increase substantially this year, and we'll talk about reasons for that as we go through. On page 14 continues that statement of net position. Top of the page lists the liabilities that the City of Oxford is responsible for. You can see the largest number of those, of course, is your long-term liabilities. That's your bonds, notes, and capital leases payable. You can see the current portion is $6.2 million, and the long-term portion of that is $60,176,000. And again, I told you a few moments ago, you issued about $10 million new debt, but you retired about $16 million. So that number did come down a little more than $6 million from the previous year. Your total liabilities, that first double underline there, $126,029,869. Remember, I told you your total assets $306 million compared to liabilities of only $126 million. A few other things factor in, but at the very bottom of the page, your net position, that's mainly the assets you own minus the liabilities you owe. You can see that number is $169,423,577. That's up over $21 million from the previous year. Remember,
Good
your
place to
assets
be.
are, excuse me?
A good place to be.
A good place to be, very good place to be. Very liquid, cash reserves are healthy, assets increase, liabilities decrease, so your net position increased by $21 million in comparison to the previous year. Next, if you look with me again on the one-page summary, our next comment is on page 18, which is a statement of revenue and expenditures for your governmental funds. This is all funds of the city other than your electric, water, sewer, and environmental services. First column, of course, is the major operating fund of the city, the general fund. Top of the page, we begin by listing the revenues. And of course, you'll see the total revenues in that first column. The first total is $33,247,209. That's up $1,889,272 in comparison to the previous year. So a healthy increase in your revenues. Where did most of that increase come from? The second line on the page is sales and use tax, $11,126,203. That's up $1,511,000 in comparison to the previous year. 15.72% increase. Remember last year when we were here, I did report you did have about a 4% decrease in the 2020 year. That recovered and increased substantially in comparison to the previous year. If you look over in the fourth column, you'll see a line labeled special taxes. That is mainly your hotel, motel, food and beverage type taxes, $5,587,851. That's an increase of $1,353,000 or a 32% increase. Very, very strong increases. If you look in the fifth column, your totals, you'll see the next largest line item is grant income. You did receive grant dollars this year in all funds of $10,275,396. Very strong numbers again. Your expenditures are listed below that. You can see by function of government. In total, in the first column, which is your main operating fund, $30,730,724. That did increase by $1,774,000 in comparison to the previous year, with most of that increase being in public safety, which is a benefit to your citizens. Then if you look with me down 3 lines from the bottom, net change in fund balances, that is the excess of revenues over expenditures in each fund. And you'll see the general fund again is your major operating fund, increased by $3,428,834. Last year's about $4 million, so a very similar increase. In total, all the way over to the right, $9.8 million. Last year, that number was about $8 million, so it's about $1.8 million more than last year. One of the main drivers of that, about 6 lines up at the bottom, you'll see a line labeled unrealized gain or loss from investments. And that number in the second column is $3,447,000. That's your trust fund, increase in investments. Last year, that number was only about $2 million increase. So your increase in total performance this year of $1.8 million is mainly related to the extra investment income or unrealized gains on your investment trust fund. One thing just for real quick reference, you can see your total revenues in the last column is $53 million. 51% of that is funded by sales and use tax, hotel, motel, or tourism tax, and grant dollars. So you got 3 sources, which is not related to the ad valorem tax that funds 51% of your budget for your governmental funds. Very, very strong numbers. Not many municipalities can state that high of a percentage. Next, if you look with me on page 24, is a revenue and expense report for your proprietary funds, which is your utility funds. You can see in this presentation, we report each one of those separately. The main thing I'll bring to your attention is 5 lines up from the bottom, income before operating transfers. And you'll see each one of those does show a profit this year. Your environmental services was basically break even in the prior year. This year you can see you do have a surplus of revenues over expenditures, and those numbers are very healthy. You can see in total a $5,627,553 number. So again, very strong numbers. All funds are in the positive now. On page 25 and 37, which I'm going to flip back to mainly page 37, just real quickly on 37 and 38 references your capital expenditures, and just sort of telling you those cash reserves you've been able to accumulate are due to good financial management, but you're not neglecting your infrastructure. On page 37 in your governmental funds, you can see on my summary report, you invested $3,377,381 into your infrastructure and your utility funds. That's actually on page 38. And then on page 39, you invested $7,421,000 into your infrastructure and your governmental funds. So you can see you spent over $11 million on new capital investments into your plant and your infrastructure and your equipment. Page 39 gives us a presentation of your long-term debt. That's note number 5 in the disclosures. You can see how much debt is due to be repaid in each of the next 5 years and then in 5-year increments. If you summarize those 2 columns that are labeled principal, that number would be $66,379,589. And again, that number is reduced by about $6 million in comparison to the previous year. You paid down at a much larger rate than you borrowed new money. Page 44 through 49 is all the disclosures related to your unfunded public employees retirement system liability. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. I feel like sometimes it misleads the statements because this year you did have an $11 million decrease in that liability. A lot of things factor into that as far as rate of return on investments, discount factors, so I'm not going to comment too much on that at this point. But page 89 and 90 are our presentation of the federal dollars that were received. On page 90 is the total of those. And I've commented to you before, anytime you have federal grant dollars in excess of $750,000, we have to perform a audit in accordance with OMB Circular 133, which is referred to as a single audit. That has been done, because you can see on page 90, you received $6,315,255 of federal grant dollars. A lot of that, of course, is in your transit grants. Then on page 96, is a summary of our auditor results, and here's where you can see the very first line item, type of auditor's report issued, unmodified. And again, in the past, that has always been qualified since we started doing your audit in 2013. Now it is an unmodified opinion. You can see we do have a couple of boxes checked yes, where we deal with a few minor findings related to internal control or non-compliance. And those are presented for you on page 97 and 98. I will comment that those findings are down to 3, which again are relatively minor findings. I'll let you read through those. I think those have already been addressed. I know the first finding deals with fixed assets. I know you've been working on that for a long time. You've made a lot of improvement. Hopefully, eventually, we'll get to remove that finding. And finding 2 was just a minor issue that has been addressed, I know, as well as finding number 3. But you can see I sort of summarized how many findings we started with back when we started doing your audit, and how much improvement has been made in that area as well. Any questions?
That is a great summary, and I very much appreciate you giving us a cheat sheet. That makes it easy to digest. Are there any questions? Then I would ask for a motion to accept this audit.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, thank you, Brian.
I would like to take this moment to
Yes.
thank Brian, as always, for his staff and their help with this, and my staff. We could not do this without them, and to the department heads, we could not do it without y'all. I know sometimes we seem like we're very hard-nosed about these rules, but this is why. Like, this is what we strive for, is to get the best that we can get. So bear with us when we say, well, you got to do it like this, so this is why. But thank y'all so much.
And thank y'all. We appreciate the opportunity to serve you. It's a privilege to do this for you. It's a privilege to work with Ashley, and we thank you for your business. If there's any way we can help you, please reach out to us.
Thank you. And thank you, Ashley, for your
Good
diligence.
job, Ashley.
This is, he's exactly right. 5 years ago when we were doing these compared to now and the findings, we've made such great progress. So I thank you very much. Okay, next on our agenda is to consider appointment of the Director of Emergency Management. This board held a special meeting last Friday morning and voted to offer the position of Emergency Management Director to Shane Fortner. Shane has accepted. Oh, I thought we did vote. I'm sorry. I got a motion and a second. All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right. Pick up where I left off. Shane has accepted the offer. And so at this time, I would ask the board for a motion to appoint him as the Emergency Management Director.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Shane is a graduate of the University of Mississippi, and he has served the city of Oxford in the police department for the past 10 years, the past 2 as the investigative lieutenant, and he was named Police Officer of the Year in 2015 and Supervisor of the Year with the Oxford Police Department in 2020. He's a section sergeant in the Mississippi National Guard, and he has served in the Guard since 2007 and received the Army Achievement Medal in 2015. I think he is very equipped, and his leadership abilities have been demonstrated. Filling Jimmy Allgood's shoes is just about impossible. And he has got his work cut out for him, but thank you, board, for that appointment. I'll now ask the board to approve 2 appointments to the Tourism Council Board, which serves with Visit Oxford, and I recommend to you Brooke Harris and Nicole List.
Move be approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Nicole, for being here and for being willing to serve. I would ask you to approve an appointment to the Historic Preservation Commission of Jimmy Mogridge.
Motion made. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? A request permission for the mayor and alderman and the chief operating officer to travel to Washington DC for meetings with the congressional delegation on September 26th through the 29th at an estimated cost of $5,771.54.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? And I think that as we just looked through our grant monies that we received, and we've received more than $10 million in federal grant dollars, I think these visits are paying off. I appreciate y'all letting us go and ask for more money. Kenny Ferris is coming up to request permission to install light pole banners on University Avenue from South Lamar to Bramlett for Holly Jolly Holidays.
So this is a little different. We've never done light pole banners on that area, but we don't have Christmas decorations over there. So with Utilities Department willing to hang them for us, we would like to hang those banners, and I think you have a copy of them.
We do.
And so we would like to hang those for that 2-month period.
Motion made to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Public hearing on the proposed FY 2022-2023 city budget and mill rate. Ashley?
Yes, and kind of following along on things that Brian talked about, we are growing, everything's increasing. I'll keep it very brief. The main thing I think people like to know is that we are not increasing the mill rate.
I repeat, we are not increasing the mill rate.
There will
taxes.
no new taxes.
No raise in taxes.
Our projected revenues and expenses are up, but we have cash flow to provide to help with that. We have budgeted several new positions and almost $3.5 million in capital expenses within the general fund, which is projects, machinery and equipment, vehicles, and salary increases that the board graciously granted across all departments. Public safety does continue to make up a large portion of our budget, but we are, that kind of makes sense. It's been that way for years and continues to be that way. Our assessed value did go up about $18 million from the previous year. And all this is attached to the board and is made public, so the public can see it. Everything I felt like went smoothly with the department heads and the budget rounds that we had, and I'm glad it's almost over. Every year, I'm glad.
That's right, that's right. So this is a public hearing on the budget. Again, these have been attached for the public's review, and so if there is any comment or anyone would like to ask a question regarding this 2022-2023 budget, this is your chance. All right.
And we will adopt this at our recess meeting on the 14th.
If you have any questions between now and the 14th, you can reach out to any of us.
Yeah, I'll just say something real quick on it. Ashley and the mayor and Bart Braxton, y'all start this process in April and end in September, so that's really 6 months of the year that y'all are working on this, so appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate y'all.
All right, request permission to hire a transport company for the Animal Resource Center. Kelly Briscoe.
To hire a Hood's Pet Express from Tupelo to transport dogs to Cumberland, Rhode Island at $140 a dog.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? And I think it is important to know that it costs us more than $140 to keep a dog in the shelter and provide for its every need. So
Yes, ma'am.
although that sounds like a lot of money
It's
to
not.
transport individual animals, that is less expensive than keeping them in the shelter. So, all right, next, request permission to apply for a grant through Petco Love for the vaccine campaign.
Yep, so applying for a vaccine campaign through Petco Love, this would help us provide more resources to the community pets. We would order vaccines at no charge, and we could give them to the community.
Motion
moved.
made.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, thanks for the good work you're doing. Request permission to update the designation of applicant agent for public assistance forms with FEMA. Ashley?
Yes, this item and the following two are all three items to update to reflect our new emergency management director.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? The next, request permission to update the state local disaster assistance agreement with FEMA.
Motion made.
All in favor? Any opposed? And the last, request permission to update the FFATA reporting form with MEMA.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks for handling that, Ashley. Chief McCutcheon is coming up to request permission to approve a parade assembly permit for the Ole Miss Homecoming Parade on Friday, September 30th from 5:30 to 7.
Yes, ma'am. It's our standard route from the Lyceum around the courthouse and then back. So it's a detail that we do every year.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? And then, as I mentioned in my mayor's report, requesting permission to approve a parade assembly permit for National Good Neighbor Day on Wednesday, September the 28th from 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Request permission to approve a parade assembly permit for an awareness walk on Sunday, October 23rd from 2 until 4.
Yes, ma'am. This one will start at the Old Armory Pavilion, and it will travel to Jefferson and then back up that same route. So we did it last year. It was a great event.
It's the Buddy Walk.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, request permission to approve a parade assembly permit for the Ole Miss ROTC 9/11 Memorial Run on Friday, September the 9th from 6 a.m. until 8 a.m.
Yes, ma'am. This is their annual run. It'll start at the Lyceum. It'll go to the square and then follow back that same route.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Request permission to accept the donation of equipment valued at $2,439.92 from Cannon Nissan for the Oxford Police Department.
Yes, ma'am. This will go to our downtown vehicles. So this is equipment we've ordered early on in the fiscal year. It's just now getting delivered. But this will be a bed cover, a brake model, and just a couple of things for our trailer and our truck that we bought last year in our budget.
So moved.
Motion made. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Request permission to accept a donation in the amount of $71,000 for the benefit of the Oxford Police Department SRO K-9 unit.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Request permission to accept a grant from the Mississippi Office of Highway Safety for 405D alcohol and drug impaired driving funding training coordination for FY 22-23 in the amount of $515,180.52.
Yes, ma'am. Our annual training grant that we have zero reimbursement on.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Request to accept a grant from the Mississippi Office of Highway Safety for 405D alcohol and drug impaired driving funding for enforcement for FY 22-23 in the amount of $115,674.02.
Yes, ma'am. This one pays for our 2 DUI officers with zero match.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Request permission to accept a grant from the Mississippi Office of Highway Safety for 402 Police Traffic Services funding for FY 22-23 in the amount of $20,537.55.
Yes, ma'am. This is our speeding and seatbelt grant. No match.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, next is our first reading of a proposed ordinance amending Chapter 94-57 garbage collection fees. Welcome, Ms. Amberlin.
Good evening. I hate to do this, but we gotta pass on what's
Has to be
being
done.
passed to us. So this, well, first let me say that every 3 to 5 years, we should go up on rates with the cost of living, the cost of everything that we buy, fuel, equipment, everything goes up every few years, and we should have gone up during COVID, but we held off. We basically are going to go up $1 per residential unit from $21 to $22, and then most commercial charges are going to go up 15%, and then we have some other increases for rubbish and our transfer station fees. Our transfer station fees went up significantly because of the transportation fees. We have a closed landfill. All of our solid waste is transferred by 18-wheeler, and that cost went up 77%.
And that's transferring it to the landfill in Pontotoc.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so I'm gonna read through all of these items, correct? Of the changes.
I'm not sure you must, it's in writing for their consideration, but you certainly can.
I feel like you just gave us a pretty good summary
Okay.
on what it is, that it is $1 for all residential accounts and that it is 15% for commercial. You all have in front of you, because it's broken down for commercial service by size of dumpsters and how many times a week those are picked up. So you have got all of that in front of you, along with roll-off containers. And disposal of things such as tires and rims, and, you know, it goes really in the weeds here on all of those individual things that the board has had before them to consider. This is, of course, just a first reading, and this was posted for the public to consider and will continue to be, and at our next meeting in 2 weeks, we will have a public hearing. And so, does anyone from the board have any questions or comments for Amberlyn?
I'm sure it's in here somewhere, but the shared dumpsters around the square that all the commercial people share, how does that impact? Is it just gonna be 15%?
That rate is, that's on your first page.
I'm sure it's in there somewhere.
It's section 1, item 2. It went from, well, and it depends on the situation, but for people sharing, such as offices, like in a strip mall, most of them are, it's gonna go from $40 to $45. And there's ways that we monitor. A restaurant is going to pay more than an office, because a restaurant is going to be, you know, producing more waste.
Okay.
It lists the times of pickup per week and the increase for each one, depending on the size of the dumpster.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, if there are no other questions, then we will have
Second reading.
second reading and public hearing at our next meeting. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Thank you, Amberlyn.
Thank you.
All right, consider bids for the microsurface overlay project. Rihanna?
Yes, thank you. We received bids for our microsurface pavement preservation project on Thursday, August 25th. We had 2 bids received. Vance Brothers Incorporated was the lowest and best in the amount of $368,939.80. Both contractors had notified us that it would be spring of '23 before this work will begin.
Boo.
Yes, we've learned now how these, the microsurface projects, how their bid cycles work. So that was a hit on a learning curve. But the contractor is very familiar with this work, has been doing it for years. I worked with them at MDOT probably 14 or 15 years ago. So they've been in the business a long time, so their bid, they know what they're doing, and so they've done work also in the county, and they will be here when they do our project doing other work as well.
So the spring of '23, that list was for summer of '22?
Yes.
Fall of '22?
Yes.
So
We are going to be
will we have
working. We're going to try to go ahead and get our next list worked on so that we can go ahead and get another bid out, so that we can stay within what the budget, with the board
Yeah.
is working towards our pavement preservation.
Perfect.
So,
All right.
Move-
So
move we approve.
Second.
to go with Vance Brothers, Inc.?
Yes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Consider a revised request for extra work hours for the future Go Shine Car Wash on Highway 6 near Howell Loop.
yes, the board previously approved Go Shine Car Wash to have extended hours for 3 different dates. Due to rain, they've missed 2 weeks of that opportunity, and so they are asking to now work, in addition to the previous approval of September 7th, which is tomorrow, they are asking to work on September 14th and September 21st, with the following rain days being.
Move we approve.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Consider a professional services contract with Cobb Environmental for work at the Oxford Conference Center.
Yes, this is for an environmental assessment of our conference center, and this was recommended to be completed by A2H. Our architect that we have under contract to work on our roof contract repair and our HVAC repair.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Consider a request for an extended closure of Chickasaw Road from Cincinnatus to Crispin Drive for the construction of a roundabout.
Yes. Cardwell Engineering, on behalf of the Lamar Development, are asking permission from the board to close Chickasaw between Cincinnatus and Crispin and to do work on a roundabout on Molly Bar at that intersection. This roundabout has been in the concept process for some time. It is a result of a traffic study from the Lamar Development and in relation to how we would allow access onto Molly Bar. So the traffic roundabout construction will require Chickasaw to be closed for a portion of time, and so there's a couple of items included in this request, and this is still a moving process. So what I'm asking for from the board is a pretty broad scope that I'm allowed to work with the engineer on. We're working to finalize the final construction plans right now. We also are still working, we've got a flooding issue on Cincinnatus that became apparent when we had that July storm, and we had some flooding issues on Cincinnatus at Chickasaw. The engineer and developer and the contractor are all working with us to work to how we resolve that, and it looks like additional infrastructure, some cleaning, they've installed some diversions on site. There's just a series of steps that we're going to take, but
I'll move that we approve to extend the closure, given your authorization and guidelines.
as laid out in the
As laid out, and then
report.
any additional guidelines or anything that you need to do to make it right.
Okay.
Second.
All right, any questions or comments?
As we go forward, I know you said we were going to close Chickasaw, but just to remind everybody, Cincinnatus is open for that traffic to move up and down, to go to North Lamar.
Yes, and that will be a key component of this approval as they move forward, is that Cincinnatus is available for the public to use.
All right, and there's a list there in this memo, Jason, that you are
Yep,
making your motion that those things are in place.
correct.
All right,
And Rihanna, I'm sorry,
No, go
Rihanna,
ahead.
I'm assuming that Cincinnati is going to be up and running, ready, or we wouldn't do it.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Motion.
okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, great, thank you. We added at 31A, consider acceptance of infrastructure for the Lamar Phase 4B in the Lamar development.
Yes, and the board had previously approved the final plat for all of the Lamar Phase 4. However, since that time, the developer requested that they be allowed to record at the county smaller pieces as they progress with the work. And so this is for Phase 4B, and it's shown on the plat. We've completed a final inspection, and so we still have to receive the as-built drawings and our final reports on the water, but I'm requesting that we accept the infrastructure, and that is contingent on the completion of any punch list items, receipt of the warranty and performance bonds, and receipt of the as-built construction drawings and all test results.
Move we approve.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Consider a resolution and authority to apply for state fiscal recovery funds available under the American Rescue Plan Act for Brittany Woods Water Project.
Yes, and we have a number of these. This is the same resolution that you approved at the last meeting for 2 projects. I have a number of projects here, and so a lot of these projects are familiar and are in fact projects that we've completed construction on. We're requesting reimbursement because we feel like that will be helpful for us in scoring purposes.
And these grants just opened September 1st.
September
So
1st.
that's why you're seeing them all
Yes,
on
and
this agenda, is that we just got the window, the
to
go
open.
light. So
Yes, and there are approximately 80 items required for every grant application. So we wanted to get the first 2 in so we could see what was in the portal, and Steve's been in there for the last several days working, seeing exactly what these requirements are and what we need. So I've got these items here, and I'm just going to say the project name for each, and the resolution is the same. And so some of these projects are going to be very familiar that are over, and that's the reason. We're just asking for reimbursement.
Thank you, Rihanna. I'll make a motion we approve.
All right, so there's a motion to approve the application for Brittany Woods Water Project. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Consider a resolution authority to apply for state fiscal recovery funds available under the ARPA for the M-Trade Test Wells Project.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Consider a resolution, I cannot talk tonight, an authority to apply for state fiscal recovery funds available through ARPA for the wastewater treatment plan flow equalization project.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Consider a resolution and authority to apply for state fiscal recovery funds available under the ARPA for regional detention within the historic downtown square project.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Consider a resolution and authority to apply for state fiscal recovery funds available through ARPA for Highway 7 water project.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consider a resolution and authority to apply for state fiscal recovery funds available under ARPA for Highway 314 sewer project.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Consider a resolution and authority to apply for state fiscal recovery funds available under ARPA for stormwater infrastructure improvement
So
project.
moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Consider a resolution and authority to apply for state fiscal recovery funds available under ARPA for the lead assessment project.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, thank you all. We will get all of those grant applications in, and by we, I mean Rihanna and Steve. And we are excited to get those requests in and appreciate all the hard work that our engineering and planning departments have done moving us forward here. All right, with that, I'll ask the board to consider an executive session.
Move we consider executive session.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? The board will now consider an executive session.